Have you ever heard of a plane that vanished into thin air without a single trace left behind? A flight full of passengers, gone from the skies as if it never existed. This is the haunting mystery of Flight 513, a story that still sends chills down the spine of anyone who dares to uncover it. In 1954, Santiago Flight 513, a commercial airliner operated by Santiago Airlines, took off from Aachen, West Germany, heading for Porto Alegre, Brazil. It was supposed to be an ordinary transatlantic flight. On board were 36 passengers and 4 crew members. Everything seemed normal. The weather was clear, communication smooth, and there were no signs of mechanical issues. But somewhere over the Atlantic, Flight 513 simply disappeared. There was no distress call, no radar blip fading slowly away. It was as if the plane had been swallowed by the sky itself. Search and rescue teams scoured the ocean for weeks. Ships combed the suspected crash zones. Aircraft flew thousands of miles across open waters. Yet not a single piece of debris was ever found. No oil slicks. No life rafts. No bodies. The families of those on board were left heartbroken, waiting for answers that would never come. The official report labeled it as missing, presumed crashed, and over the years, the tragedy faded from public memory. Then, 35 years later, in 1989, something unthinkable happened. Airport radar in Porto Alegre picked up an unidentified aircraft approaching from over the Atlantic. The signal was steady, old-fashioned, and unlike any modern plane. The air traffic controllers were confused. There was no flight plan, no scheduled arrival, and the transponder code didn't match anything in the system. As the plane came closer, the tower realized the call sign it was broadcasting was one that had been inactive for decades: Santiago Flight 513. The controllers were stunned. They scrambled to establish contact, but there was no response from the cockpit. The plane descended smoothly and landed perfectly on the runway. It rolled to a stop, engines humming quietly before shutting down. For a few moments, the airport stood in silence. The plane looked aged, far older than it should have been, its paint faded and markings barely visible. When emergency crews finally approached and opened the cabin doors, what they found inside would haunt them forever. Every single passenger and crew member was still seated in their places, perfectly preserved skeletons, strapped in as if waiting for the flight to end. The pilots sat motionless in the cockpit, skeletal hands resting calmly on the controls. There was no sign of struggle or panic. It looked as though the plane had simply continued its journey through time and landed exactly where it was meant to all those years ago. Investigators were at a complete loss. The aircraft itself was authentic, a genuine Santiago Airlines model from the 1950s. Maintenance logs matched the serial numbers perfectly. Yet somehow, it had appeared again after 35 years with no explanation for where it had been. Some suggested that it had passed through a time vortex or some strange atmospheric anomaly. Others speculated that it had been part of a secret government experiment gone wrong. The Brazilian government initially confirmed the story but quickly retracted all statements, calling it a hoax. Officially, no records of such an event exist today. Yet numerous airport workers who claim to have witnessed it still stand by their accounts, swearing that the plane really did land that day. Journalists who tried to dig deeper were silenced or discredited. Some say the truth was buried to prevent public panic. Others believe the mystery was never meant to be solved. What makes this story even stranger is the eerie calm of the passengers. Forensic teams reported no signs of trauma or decay. It was as though the passengers had been instantly transformed, frozen in time. Scientists who examined the remains could not determine the cause of death. There were no traces of poison or radiation, no mechanical faults, and no biological clues. Just silence and mystery. Was Flight 513 a ghost plane? A tragic accident lost to the pages of time? Or did it somehow slip into another dimension, returning decades later with its passengers long gone from this world? Even today, aviation experts cannot agree. The official stance is skepticism, but among paranormal researchers, it has become one of the most famous unsolved cases of all time. Whatever happened to Flight 513 that day defies logic. Some believe it's a warning about the unknown forces of our skies. Others think it's proof that our world still holds secrets far beyond human understanding. But one thing is certain: if Santiago Flight 513 truly landed that day, it didn't just return from the past. It returned from something much darker. So, what do you think? Did Flight 513 vanish into a storm, or did it cross through time itself? Follow for more mysteries like this.